Ladies and gentlemen, the following episode of the Mount Rushmore podcast contains spoilers. Before listening, be sure to watch every movie that ever existed, read every book that ever existed, and go on the internet and look at everything that's on the internet. You've been warned. Hello and welcome to Mount Rushmore. My name is Jeff, and as always, I'm joined by my pretty good friends, Richard.
Hello.
And my casual acquaintance, Michael.
Howdy.
Richard and Michael are locked in mortal combat about things that they don't like, and sometimes agree, but mostly disagree. And that is no different. Today is spoiler alert. The Mount Rushmore of spoiler alerts. Okay, who thought of this and why?
This was my choice. And
Wait, don't give it away. Nah, go ahead.
okay. Spoiler alert. This was my choice. And I chose this one because this is such a common occurrence in our day-to-day consumption of media, be it movies or television or whatever, sports even, where there is this personal responsibility that is given away by the people watching what they're doing. There's it's like a two sides of a coin. There's people that want to talk about this amazing thing that they've seen, and then there's the people that have been trying to avoid it, yet still engage. And I'm very interested in the person that is so
engage in society or engage in a conversation about it.
I'm interested in the person who is so into a particular thing, a TV series, and they want to be surprised, yet given that they're still online all day long. And then they blame society for ruining their experience when, man, it's on you. Like, sure, maybe part of it's on the other person that wants to talk about it, but at the same time, you know what's coming on. You know that there's a potential.
It's called social media, and people tend to socialize around things such as entertainment. So back off.
So I'm interested in kind of all aspects about it, and the movies and TV series and whatever that we can get into it.
Okay, so Michael chose it. Richard, you start.
Okay, so my first choice, I'm glad you mentioned sports.
Yeah.
Because I have on here actually, what I had was any live sporting event. But if we really want to get specific about it, the Olympics.
On my list as well, and we can
get into this.
We can get into it right away.
Right. Because Michael, I think you know why I put the Olympics on there, especially for you.
Wait, let me just say a spoiler. It's not a spoiler. This is going to be a short episode. Okay, go ahead.
All right. Spoiler alert.
Spoiler alert.
The Olympics are weird.
Yeah. So Michael
and often take place in times that aren't where you are.
Right. And so Michael and I are part of a Facebook group with friends of ours and friends of friends.
Not anymore.
Well, Michael used to be.
Yeah.
And during was it the London Olympics, I believe?
2012.
Yeah. You posted right before the Olympics started a request not to post spoilers about Olympic events because you wanted to watch them during prime time. Privacy of your own home without knowing, right? Was that the gist of it?
Basically. And to back up a little bit, this was a group of pretty, friends that kind of knew each other for the most part. And with all guys, there tends to be like a little bit of jocularity and crassness and
locker room talk.
A lot of pussy grabbing.
That's awful. But like, you can call someone a dick.
Yeah.
And it's no big deal.
Yeah.
I said something to the likes of, and I was new to this group, like, hey, let's not be assholes and not like ruin each other's experience watching the Olympics.
Yeah.
Man, was I wrong trying to
presume that would be taken in the spirit
an ounce of politeness at the same time kind of being a dick myself.
Yeah.
Just trying to join in,
Yeah. You read the room wrong. You read the crowd wrong.
Immediately, the act of telling someone what they should or shouldn't do was drowned out by the biggest a-holes in the group.
Yeah.
And
which was most of them.
And made it like their mission to now go out of their way to be awful about it. And it's just like, man, I just want to watch the presentation of sports that I don't generally care about. So like the Olympics, it's not like I, for the most part, care about who wins or loses. As a casual fan, I wanted to enjoy the NBC presentation.
Yeah.
And I was able to avoid going on ESPN. And maybe I just thought too much, but it was just immediately shot down. And that was my first lesson in, wow, people are just going to be unnecessarily cruel because of.
Right, because they can.
Yeah.
Basically.
Yeah.
Am I imagining that you're doing a 180 from what you said at the beginning of this, that people are being naive if they think they can engage? Or is it because it was a group within the realm of Facebook?
It's kind of twofold. Like,
okay.
One, it was like, I thought that the smartest thing to do would be to ask nicely.
Oh. Yeah, but you also called them assholes.
Yeah.
But it was within the realm of...
Again, reading the room wrong.
Let's say you were a mom and you were a mom who had a baby with a unibrow, and then people would know not to talk about unibrows and joke about it if their babies didn't have that. That seems like
I'm not supposed to.
Oh shit!
Let me write this down.
That seems like the politeness that you would afford people in the community, but the fact that you asked led to retribution.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
But then also, that was, I think, my first real lesson in owning your own social media.
Yeah.
Okay, at that point, it's on me to turn off notifications and specific notifications for whatever, and not to pay attention as much, and not to, I wasn't really, I didn't really follow Twitter at that time. And 4 or 5 years ago, 5 years ago now, it was a thing, but it wasn't a thing that I was involved in. I watched sport, I watched whatever, I couldn't watch it at work. I didn't have a job where the stuff was on all day or streaming. So I was definitely at a disadvantage in that sense. Yeah. But it was like you said, I read the room wrong. And if I hadn't called them a-holes, maybe no, but they would have still, my reading of it, post-mortem was the act of telling you what to do.
Yeah.
Was the wrong thing or asking of what to do.
Yeah. And this is something that I think comes up with these major, global sports events. You don't have this with the Super Bowl.
No.
If you didn't watch the Super Bowl and you have it on your TiVo or whatever, or on your cable box, that's on you, right? But you wouldn't, because you should be watching it, I guess. But if it's the World Cup and it's being played in South Korea and the games are on at 7 a.m. and you can't watch them, then you have to do this it's on. You have to do this work, active work, to not be spoiled. Here
are the last 3 Olympics, since we're just talking about the Olympics, but I guess the World Cup falls into it because it's also it happens every 4 years. Brazil, 4 hours ahead. It's not bad. You can, that's kind of like watching something on the East Coast. Okay, that's fine. London, 8 hours ahead. That's tough. No matter when you watch it, it's out of sync. Beijing, 15 hours ahead. And what's strange, always on a Wednesday, no matter what day. It was always just randomly Wednesday, 15 hours ahead, no matter what day you were watching it. So it was always just kind of screwed up.
Yeah, so something with the international dateline fucked it up. But even with Brazil, NBC decided we're going to tape delay everything because we want everything to be shown in prime time. Is that what it was? Or they would show stuff even that was live on the East Coast, but then they would tape delay it for the West Coast. So if you how if you watch Saturday Night Live, it's live on the East Coast, but you're seeing a 3-hour tape delayed version of that.
You had a couple different options, I think, for Brazil. They, have multiple channels and they had their live events. So you could watch,
on
volleyball
Bravo or something.
Yeah, you could watch stuff happening, kayaking as it happened. And you could watch, the big events like gymnastics as they happened. But then they also had a primetime edited down version that you could enjoy with the family from, 8 to 11, 8 to 12, whereas condensed, and sure, it showed the majority of Americans winning.
Right.
Or in the events that
we actually cared about.
We excel in and yada, yada. But man, I screwed that one up.
It's no triple cast. No. I'll tell you that. But I do, and people bitch about NBC specifically about that, right? And I just think it's it's never been where everything was live and you could just see it. It's better now than it ever has been for that.
Sure.
The Miracle on Ice, 1980, that was in the United States, and they still showed that on a tape delay. They showed it on like a 3-hour tape delay, even on the East Coast, instead of showing it live because it was like started at like 4:30 East Coast time. But the difference was it's 1980. There's no social media.
Yeah.
There's no 24-hour cable TV showing you the results.
Well, I would love to discuss what is different now than it was before. I think of time and place shifting with entertainment and information and discussions that happen in social media. It seemed like you would be able to kind of tune them out, but social media is also the place where you might need to go to Facebook to know where to meet your friend for dinner that night.
Sure.
So it's harder to avoid.
I would say there's two things going on. I think instantaneous communication and instantaneously knowing what's going in the world at all times. And you've just become accustomed to it.
Yeah.
And the second thing is, especially in the mid 90s and into 2000s was the rise of so many cable channels and cable conglomerates. Like NBC, like you said, owns Bravo, owns a number of different sports networks, owns AMC. So you could they had a platform to show every sport that was happening live at the same time if you chose to watch it. And I think that leads to just the immediacy of, sports are an immediacy, like they happen in real time.
Yeah.
They don't happen on a sound stage and then are recorded and then, you see the final product edited together.
Right.
And I think NBC, or at least the coverage, tries to do that to some extent because they want to control this product that they pay billions of dollars for in royalties every year.
Right.
And
there's an idea that they're trying to shape the narrative versus what people watch sports for is primarily to see a narrative that's kind of uncontrollable. Narrative might not break the way that you expect it to, or anything like that. I remember the Indianapolis 500 used to be shown on tape delay up until like 86. Like it was ABC would, it'd be like morning, early afternoon, the actual race, but then they would package it into a 3-hour broadcast that would run primetime, Sunday night of Memorial Day weekend. And even as a kid, it was hard to avoid. I remember one time I did a great job. I didn't watch any sports that whole weekend because the other networks would spoil it. Like Dick's, they were trying to say like, oh, by the way, so-and-so won the Indianapolis 500. You're like, oh, fuck.
Dick's Network?
Yeah, that's
Dick's Sporting Goods.
Dick's Sporting
Goods. Oh, sorry.
Yeah. So they would.
Where is this Dick's Network that I've been missing out?
Where's it been my whole life?
Oh my God, he's right. It's all Dick's.
I believe that's called Fox.
Okay.
And I remember one time I did a great job, avoided it all night, just sitting down to win the race or watch the race. Like it was eating dinner. It was going to come on after that. My mom just out of the blue. So Gordon Johncock won the Indianapolis 500, huh? I'm like, Mom, what do you do? Oh, she was getting that. Oh, you didn't hear? That was not a fun night.
Two things I think is interesting was what I've noticed on social media. I don't even know how to term it, but the pride of being the first to acknowledge the death of a celebrity or some kind of life event, like R.I.P. Rue McClanahan, the person nobody's been talking about this celebrity who's died.
Right.
R.I.P. Jamie Farr. I'm glad he's alive. Don't die, Jamie Farr. But like the person wants to post that and show that they are the first to know. And I think that happens with spoilers and stuff too.
Sure. That's also like that weird kind of message board culture that has come up in the last, 15 years where you go on like the AV Club or Ain't It Cool News or someplace and whatever. There's always like that first comment where someone has to say first.
Yeah.
As like, you don't win anything.
Yeah.
There is no prize for being the first to write first.
They win the internet.
Oh, okay.
They win the internet.
So
how many points did you get for that?
5.
Oh, that's pretty good.
Let me ask
like
you,
our last podcast, we each got 5 points.
Got 5.
What does a spoiler take from you?
It takes the feeling of surprise.
You flip to the back of the book and you see how it ends, and now you got to read the damn book.
Yeah, it's a combination of surprise and suspense. Like this thing that you've invested either time or I guess just your time and enjoyment in, and you're just like, oh, well, okay. I guess I don't need to read that anymore.
And I suspect many of our future choices that are less real life based, we'll look at these and say, after you see it the first time, there's still a lot of value in going back And rewatching it now that you know whatever the twist is or the big thing that's spoiled, quote unquote, because now you watch it and you're within the context of knowing what that is, and you see things that are, oh, that's a clue that was pointing toward that. So but you kind of lose that initial sort of not knowing that and kind of having it sprung on you.
I pulled up this thing that someone wrote that was listed as the 5 types of spoilers. So do you mind if I go through them in quick succession? The first one is the shameless spoiler. You don't believe in spoilers and that it's kill or be killed on social media. The second was the power spoiler, where you relish in the spoil and relish showing off what you knew first, which I think that's what you kind of spoke to. The coded spoiler, you're a super fan who respects lesser mortals by speaking in code. The fourth is the impulsive spoiler, where you can't help it and you just have to say that you saw it. And then the last one is the clueless spoiler, where you can't work out why people get so upset with the inadvertent thing that you spoiled. Yeah. And I think you see that happen less so with sports, but probably more some of our other picks that we might have coming up.
That's right.
Okay, let's get on to those. Richard came out. You're the next one. Richard came out.
I came out. That's fabulous.
So we had the same pick as the first one. And the second one, I guess my second pick is from something that happened in space. And it was Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan.
Okay.
Which was the death of Spock and transfer of memories.
Wait, what?
Oh yeah, spoiler alert. And I chose this not because of my great love for Star Trek, but because they traced it back and they found the first use of spoiler alert on the internet to a Usenet group where this guy basically wrote, and I'll read it real quick. He said, spoiler alert. Regarding Spock's parting gesture to McCoy, it wouldn't surprise me if that's how they bring him back, if they do. But then I have a low opinion on Star Trek scripts. Spock's farewell to Kirk sounded pretty final to me. So this was a guy supposing something, and this was back in 1982.
Wow. Where was this written on?
It was a Usenet group.
Wow.
And so they were able to trace it back to this very first time that someone had the wherewithal to actually be conscious of someone else's feelings, which is just almost gone nowadays.
Yeah.
And, I think in Star Trek, in the series, they were a little bit older, by the time they'd gotten around to the second movie, which, even took place a number of years past Star Trek, the motion picture, which took place a number of years past, the original series. But for them to kill off Spock was still pretty alarming. I mean, I was 4 years old, so I didn't know. Who knows?
Oh, yeah.
But looking back and supposing what people would, that would have been a big thing to drop. Like they killed the main, basically the second lead behind Kirk. What's his name?
Shatner.
Thank you very much.
William.
Bill. Sorry, I know him as Bill.
Shatner.
But I was very interested in the very first use of someone being polite on the internet when it came to spoilers.
Yeah. Did you research the first time someone said, "You asshole"?
It was the very next post. Right. Being what does this spoiler alert thing mean?
That would be spoiler alert, and you wouldn't even know really what it was. I don't know what spoiler alert even means, so it seems like he's alarming me to something. There's so many films that were adapted from novels. So I can imagine too, there was an era in which most of the films many of the films you went to, you know that Scarlett O'Hara is going to survive, or that Dorothy's going to get back to Kansas. So you might not have had that concern, or that the South is going to win the Civil War. Am I getting my history wrong?
with a movie out of nothing. You wouldn't have necessarily known.
Yeah.
Unless they put out a novelization beforehand. And,
right.
It's interesting to see how they've changed the way that they've done that over the years, is where they've kind of delayed until a big tentpole movie has come out before they kind of novelize it.
Thinking of Psycho and Alfred Hitchcock's purchasing all the novels, the copies of Psycho that were out there, because he didn't want anybody to know the ending. Yeah, so he instructed one of his assistants go throughout Los Angeles and purchase up every copy of the book that was in bookstores and
locally conscious.
Yeah, locally conscious. So. Okay, Mr. Manfredi.
My second one is The Usual Suspects.
Oh, good choice.
I do remember seeing this in the theater, and sometimes you can kind of work out. I think I'm actually decent at working out kind of twist endings.
Oh, here's a little quick shout out to my stepdad, Morgan Hunter, who listens to this podcast. Hi, Morgan. And who was in The Usual Suspects.
Oh, really?
He was he played the burned Hungarian.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. Hey, Morgan.
Hey, Morgan. What's up?
That's awesome.
Who gets to yell out, Kaiser Soze?
That's pretty right.
I think it's actually part of the final montage when Chaz Palminteri is like piecing it all together. I think hear him say that. I just watched it. So yeah it's interesting. And I didn't figure this shit out.
No.
This is one that was just completely like, what? I think this one's fascinating to me because it's one of the ones where it makes you have to completely revisit the movie now that you've worked this out. Now that this is one of those that now that you've seen it and you've seen at least some of the things he's picking up on to craft this story, you then go back and rewatch it, and it's like kind of you get the sense of like where's the reality in the story that he's telling to some extent versus stuff that he's just completely making up. It's just a fascinating script. I mean, and a lot of these, when it's a really naughty sort of story, not naughty as in body, but
twists and turns.
Twisty, yeah. You get done and you're sort of blown away by it, but then you go back and rewatch it and say, wait a second. If that's the case, then it can get convoluted upon multiple rewatchings. This, for the most part, doesn't.
Is Fight Club on your list?
No.
Okay. I'll bring up Fight Club because it's not on my list either.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree. Like Fight Club is very much has that same.
Wait, guys, no.
Spoiler alert.
First rule. Sorry.
Sorry. Never mind.
Fight Club is what?
Fight Club. Oh, that's twice now I've done it.
The movie with Edward Norton and Brad Pitt.
Yeah. I like that it's become Hamlet.
Macbeth.
Oh. Macbeth, yes, thank you.
You said it, you idiot.
I'm an asshole.
Now we're
dead.
We
knew that.
They did a very similar thing with that, where they were a little more heavy-handed with their clues, especially on rewatch. And I think, with the cuts on the screen and all the little things that they did for their big reveal. But I think that Usual Suspects was definitely a little more subtle. Like, he's reading things on the other side of the desk. Right. And if you don't have like an HD TV, you're never going to be able to piece it together just by what you see. You have to piece it together by what you're presented at the end.
He is the unreliable narrator. He's the person who's telling us.
Yeah, definitely. And it's interesting rewatching some of the scenes ahead of this. The last line, basically the last line before Chaz Palminteri kind of figures it out, he's talking to Dan Hadia. This is like his partner. And he's telling him about he's got this totally messy desk because they'd been sitting at like his desk during the interrogation. And Dan Hadia says something to the effect of, well, no, but it's totally organized there. I'm just the only one who knows where it is. And he says, it all makes sense when you look at it, right? You just got to stand back from it. And then that's like the last line before he kind of looks up and sees the Skokie quartet thing where he starts pieces together the barbershop quartet. It's funny when you hear it again, it's like he's making up the story about he was in a barbershop quartet in Skokie, Illinois, and he was picking
coffee mug.
Picking coffee. Well, he was picking coffee in Paraguay. It's like when you hear his actual story, like it's like, this doesn't make it. There's this crippled person, lives this like incredible life. It doesn't make any sense. Like when you sit down and think about it, it sounds like bullshit. Yeah. But in the actual context of the movie, the first time you watch it, it just sounds like, well, of course, how could you make up? I was in a barbershop quartet in Skokie, Illinois. Why would you even? Those words come out of your mouth, right?
In relation to the topic, do you recall there being like an outrage at the time of like the ending and the twist? Like coming out early, or like that being a thing that was leaked, or had any friends? Did you have any friends that had like ruined it for you that came out and you're just like, oh, well, thanks, Todd?
No, I feel like I saw it.
Always Todd.
Yeah, Todd's an asshole. I feel like I saw it opening weekend or close to opening weekend within the first couple of weeks. So I don't think I'd been spoiled by then.
That's a very good point. And it's amazing how much the rush to see a movie opening weekend, I think, is still a big driving factor on a movie's success. But on a movie like this, where it becomes imperative, where like you don't know that there's a twist,
right?
But you're thankful that you saw it, Saturday at 8:00, because possibly by Monday morning water cooler, Todd from accounting would be like, hey guys, I knew it I knew he was Kaiser Soze the entire time.
Or SNL might have parodied it, or something you could get, and you could deduce whether they revealed it or not. You could deduce what the spoiler was.
And there's one of my picks later on. We can talk about the expiration date for spoiler alerts, which is something I do want to touch on.
Sure.
Yeah.
A couple other things about this. One thing is that it's interesting to me because this movie works even if there's no spoiler. Even if this movie had been constructed so that verbal Kint is not Kaiser Soze, it's still,
wait, what?
Spoiler alert.
Oh shit.
How many times are we going to make this joke, guys? Pull it
7 more. Spoiler.
We're not even at halftime yet, so we got a ways to go.
I'm sorry, audience.
It's still a good thriller, crime thriller, even without that twist. Like you could have found a way to wrap up the movie, I'm sure, without that twist.
Yeah.
So it doesn't necessarily feel like a movie that was made just for the twist. Also interesting to me because we had the episode a few weeks ago about the Deus Ex Machinas.
Oh yeah.
And this is not one of those. This isn't something that it feels like it comes naturally within the flow of the story. It doesn't feel like something that they just sort of threw in at the end, like, oh, he actually was he wasn't, he wasn't this person at all. He was somebody else.
Yeah.
It feels like it was worked into the plot. And again, when you go back and rewatch it and you see all of the signs behind it.
I think that brings up 2 issues that I think are very fascinating, is that within Usual Suspects, we kind of discover the power of story and how this fast talking man presents a story about who he is and where he's been that allows him to escape imprisonment.
Right.
And that really delivers on what you lose when you get a spoiler. You lose the whole power of story.
Right.
And in fact, you end up at a destination and you didn't even get to go on the journey. And then I find that fascinating, like a spoiler is ultimately a destination, but it has no value if you haven't gone on the journey yet. So it does take a lot of the oomph of storytelling out of there.
And last thing for me on this is I think this works well because you have him telling a story to a secondary character who can kind of act as the audience's surrogate.
Yeah.
In Chaz Palminteri being somebody who not only is the person who winds up being surprised by it, but spends most of the movie acting superior to verbal Kint. He kind of berates him for being a cripple and somebody, nobody, and how much he's smarter than that. Chaz Palminteri's smarter than him, and he's going to figure out what's going on no matter what, regardless of what he says. That's actually a line that he says at one point. And I think that and there's a couple other examples, at least one other in one of my examples, one of my choices that is very similar. I think if you have a character that in the movie that the big reveal gets played off of, I think it allows, you sort of have a sense of connection with that character. Like you were all taken in together.
Yeah. It's a great casting too. If it was, let's say if Stephen Baldwin was playing the verbal Kint role,
right?
That would have been a different story, because I think Kevin Spacey has this type of persona in which you really don't believe much of what he says anyway.
Yeah. I mean, though, I don't know if I'm trying to think, I guess this was after 7, right?
Same year.
Oh. Yeah. So before this, he had been just sort of like journeyman, sort of character actor.
Yeah.
So this is probably where between that and Seven where he kind of built that persona, I think in a lot of ways. I actually thought you meant the casting of Chaz Palminteri.
Oh, okay.
Which I can kind of see that working because he's somebody who you believe that he thinks he's somebody who's smarter than verbal Kint, but probably really isn't.
Yeah.
And no knock on Chaz Palminteri, but I think he's good at playing characters who are kind of smart dumb.
Yeah. Yeah. Hey guys, we're at halftime. Everybody's going to be talking about every episode of the Mount Rushmore podcast. And if you don't listen to all the old episodes, you're going to be spoilt because they're going to talk about the ending to them and you're going to feel dumb because you haven't already seen or heard them and listened to them. And if you don't go to the iTunes and download, listen, rate, and review all the past episodes, we're never going to know what you find is interesting about our podcast or what you'd like to hear us discuss in the future. You could also share that information on Facebook by going to the Mount Rushmore community there. And you can also follow us on Twitter and Instagram. We're back. And David Brown, if you're listening, we're not talking about sports anymore. Maybe you've zoomed fast forwarded ahead, but we're not talking about sports. We haven't for like 20 minutes. Michael, what do you got?
My third is also about space. It's also about a war set in the stars. And this is
it Battlestar Galactica?
It's about Battlestar Galactica.
Okay.
This is the moment in The Empire Strikes Back when Darth Vader reveals to Luke Skywalker that he is his father. And then Luke screams, "No."
Yeah.
What made me think about this was that at some point, my little son, who's coming into this world in 3 to 4 short weeks,
may actually be here by the time
this episode. That's right.
Episode.
As of this date, he's 3 weeks away or so.
I'm so excited.
I'm going to have to navigate that strange universe of when I show him Star Wars, do I show him Star Wars, then Empire, and then do the machete order and go back and show him the prequels?
Why do you need to show him the prequels?
Because he's a little boy and he's going to want to see lightsabers and
mullet Obi-Wan.
And then at some point he's going to be mad. Here, how about this? At 8 years old, if he hasn't seen him, all his friends are going to have been talking about how cool Jar Jar Binks is.
Yeah, that's true. Good point.
And I'm going to have to be like
pod racing.
Yeah. So I have to figure out how much. When do you start? Do you just show episodes 1, 2, and 3, and 4, 5, and 6? 1, 2, and 3, Rogue One, 4, 5, and 6, and 7, 8, 9. Do you? What is the order, and how do I preserve this transcendent moment in the movie?
You show them 4, 5, 6, and then you show them Rogue One, and then whatever the next one is.
Holiday special.
And then you show them the holiday special. And then you kind of throw a VHS tape of the first 3 and go, if you want to watch this too.
In the future, we're not going to have anything. It's going to be a sheet of plastic that we pull down and we think about what's going to be on screen. And there it is. I had actually this conversation with Emily the other day about how all this technology that I have to teach my kid, I won't need to worry about because it's not going to exist in 10 years.
Yeah,
true. He's going to be so far. We're going to be so far ahead of whatever. But
you're such a hipster yourself. This kid's probably going to want to learn how to make artisan ketchups or mustache wax.
Also,
or something
the presumption this kid wants to see Star Wars, I guess, is out there. But I don't know.
Your kid is going to like football and barbecue and chicken wings.
It's not Scott Jones' kid. But I guess no. Oh God, no. God, no. What I liked about this, obviously, other than my personal navigation of how to resolve this issue, was that when Darth Vader first revealed it back in 1980, people came out of the movie theaters being like, "Oh, he's lying."
Yeah, that's what I thought.
That he's the bad guy and he's dressed in black, and of course he's just lying to this guy to get him to turn and join his the evil emperor and overthrow the empire and whatever. And people kind of came out of it feeling like, so was he lying? Was Obi-Wan lying? I thought Obi-Wan said that he killed him. Yeah. And then you have to wait another 3 years before it's like, yeah, he killed him, sort of. But I don't know. I mean, I was a little young to see it in the theaters, but I think this was something that kind of threw people for a loop.
Oh, yeah. as a kid, I saw it in the theater, and I did think he was lying. And there's also, even as a young person, I am like Richard in that when something like Usual Suspects.
I'm sorry, by the way.
I'm so much like Richard. When the usual, I don't analyze films. I just see them, and I do not try to hack or figure out what the story is. I'm just maybe can't instead of do is the word, because I just don't have the analytical brain.
Can't or cannot. There is no analyzing.
I'm just floating in the story. I'm not kind of paddling ahead to try to guess what the ending is, and I don't have a very good faculty at doing that.
Sounds like somebody, by the way, somebody didn't read Encyclopedia Brown books when they were a kid.
I did guess one of those things. The egg was hard boiled. Exactly. That's why he could spin. But I also thought Darth Vader was like a robot person or something. So I didn't think he could be Luke's father, because I thought he was mostly a robot or something.
Like a robo penis?
Yeah, robot wiener.
Yeah.
How could it be fun?
You're like 7, so you would have said wiener. I'm sorry.
Yeah, Mark Hamill says, "No, you've got a robot wiener." It was the line that they cut before he jumped off. Yeah, so that's why I didn't think it was true.
You know, I think we're also in this new era, as we've mentioned before, of Twitter and websites and things being spoiled. And, I remember when The Phantom Menace came out, like I was so jazzed up to see Star Wars.
Oh, yeah.
That I remember going on in 99 or 97 even, like being at college, nerd alert, and looking online to see look at the new Star Wars spaceship, and not worrying about spoilers. I was just so excited to see it.
Yeah.
And, as I've grown older and dorkier, and I've learned to kind of temper that and be like, you know what? When you see it, you're going to be blown away. So don't.
Yeah.
Like the self-preservation of spoilers is this new thing of don't spoil it for me, because I recognize that I'm adult enough to want that feeling of newness.
When you shake the Christmas present to kind of discover its identity, sometimes you'll hear a telltale rattle that lets you know exactly what it is.
Yeah, or a bark.
Or a bark. Oh no, it's still 3 weeks to Christmas. This puppy's gonna die.
But I think part of the whole spoiler culture is that self restraint.
Yeah,
that you have to, at this point, temper yourself.
Yeah.
You could go both ways. You could be the person that just dives head in, and everything that's going on before the movie comes out.
Yeah.
And what they look like, the names of the planets,
yeah.
You're actively engaged in trying to decipher all of the clues.
That's how I would go see an Italian opera. Like, I need to know what the fuck is happening. Let me read the wiki first.
Right.
I gotta know who's this Cosi and who's this Fontute. So Richard.
All right. So my next one is The Red Wedding from...
Also on my list.
Okay.
You're going to go back to back here then.
Oh, okay.
After this.
Okay. Sounds good. I can do this.
Yeah.
And this was the first time I remember on social media, people getting angry.
Yes. I agree.
About being spoiled.
Yeah.
And now I don't really watch Game of Thrones. Sarah watches it.
Spoiler alert. It's a good show.
It's fine. I have...
wait.
Haven't seen it.
Yeah,
it's fine.
Wait. Yeah.
No, I said I don't really watch it. I don't sit down every week to watch every episode. Sarah watches it, so her dad watches it, so it's on while I'm in the room, and I sort of pay half attention to it.
Okay.
So it's fine. I don't hate it. I don't love it. It's a show. So I don't get. I'm certainly not wrapped up in the spoiler alerts. I am somebody who will read the recaps the next day, just so I'm kind of culturally aware of what's happening on the show.
Right.
So that for the next week, when people are making Twitter
red
references,
jokes.
Twitter references about it or whatever, I am aware of what's happening. But this bullshit is the one that I just remember friends being legitimately upset at other friends when this went down.
It also is George R.R. Martin seemed to make a sport of destroying characters that you loved.
Right.
So why that response was happening, I guess I don't know why it's so extreme, because it was so gory.
It was pretty brutal.
Yeah.
And especially if you don't know what's going on, to see most of the main cast just wiped out and eviscerated in the span of 5 minutes. You're like, oh, they can do that. They can just kill everybody like that.
And this is also a show in hindsight where they had killed off the head of the Stark family.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They didn't do that on Cheers, where everybody at the bar gets killed.
They just beheaded.
A steamroller plows into Cheers.
Is that what happened?
They beheaded Paul. Yeah. They already, and also the main character, the person who's basically the main character of the show for the first season, and the person who you probably the actor you knew the most. Mm-hmm. And then next season, basically kill most of the rest of his family.
This was also the first instance of people actively putting up like Twitter filters where you could like block you could block mentions of Game of Thrones in your feed.
Right.
And I think you can do that on Facebook too. And there might even be like a Chrome extension where you can actively go in and
Game of Chrome.
Where you can, if you're so concerned with it, you can go in and put these things to kind of automatically dilute what you see.
So if I type
what you see,
Jeff Hopkins sucks, I won't see that anymore.
I guarantee you've never seen that, Jeff.
I wish your guarantee had some impact on reality.
The Game of Thrones is such an interesting thing because it has existed for 15 years as a book.
I was going to ask this, not being familiar with the book or, as a fanboy of the TV show, at least. Yeah. Wasn't that something? Wasn't the Red Wedding in the book?
Oh, it's all in the book.
Then what the hell are people? What shouldn't?
But they haven't seen it. There's also I would say that this thing has like two sides. There is the people who have read the book that know the story. I've never read the books. I've just seen the show.
Nobody has.
There's 7 people that have. It's the same people that watch Doctor Who
and read The Hobbit. Yeah, or the Simulacrum. Let's say that.
They're the people that know the story inside and out and act high and mighty about their pre-knowledge, knowing that these things are going to happen,
right? And
that kind of sit back on their, in their chair and observe the chaos. But right now, those same people don't know what's happening.
Because the book's it's gone off the rails from
because
the book, right?
It's overtaken the book. So I can't remember the name of the podcast. There's one that I listen to that's like a Game of Thrones podcast. And it's like the people that have been so like knowledgeable and steeped in lore, and suddenly they're out in the wilderness. Yeah. And it's so delicious.
I love it.
To see these people falling on their own swords.
The tour guide has no map to that.
Yeah, I this also I remember because there was a lot of like as this episode was coming up, people who knew the book, I seem to remember sort of like, I think I know what's going to come up next week. You guys aren't going to be too happy with it.
Yeah.
And it's that idea of like, I know more than you do, and I'm going to kind of hold this knowledge over you.
Yeah.
It's kind of, it's deliciously dickish.
But it has also sparked the conversation of personal etiquette. Of like, well, you should wait a day and a half before, like, who are you? Like, it's the same thing with like the Olympics. It's like, who are you to tell me
that I can't
talk about this thing with my friends? And if you don't want to be friends with me, I guess that's up to you. But if I want to talk about X, Y, and Z getting murdered, that's fine.
Yeah.
I'm allowed to do that. First Amendment.
And Facebook and social media, Twitter, have become a platform for spontaneous expression of the exact moment of what's happening. Right. Not you got to wait.
Which is interesting. One thing that's interesting to me about this, and TV spoilers in general, I would say, is that one of the things you hear about with TV is that network executives can't figure out how to combat time shifting. The fact that you can TiVo a show or have it on your cable box and watch it 3 days later and just fast forward the commercials. And, what good does that do the advertisers? And the idea of spoilers kind of helps them in a lot of ways, because you've now got these shows where if you don't want to be spoiled,
you have to watch it.
Uh-huh. Yeah. The way back when we were kids had to watch it. You just had to watch it when it came out. Now it's interesting. You see something like Game of Thrones, which HBO, there's no commercials anyway, so there's not as much of a value in that. But certainly I think with network stuff, I think there's it has created more of an emphasis on watching it as it airs, which, to go back to sports, is one reason why that's such a valuable property.
Sure.
For networks, is because, if you're watching the Super Bowl, you're going to be watching it live. You're going to be watching all the commercials. Most people don't watch it time shifted.
Yeah, you see that too with like the kind of prominence of live musicals that they've been airing on ABC and NBC, where it's like there's this push again to they're trying to almost reject the Netflix culture of, well, I can just binge watch all of this at what time, or I can watch this when I want to. Yeah. And they want to try to take some of that airtime back. That they think they own, or
manufacturing event television, and competing with Facebook is also doing Facebook Live, which they can presume has the currency of a live people not wanting to miss anything. Okay, you're up again, Richard.
All right, so my last one, I am going with the movie The Crying Game, which
first there are kisses, then there are signs.
C-M-I-C.
I know some of all there is to know about The Crying Game.
Have you?
Please tell us the rest of what there is to know about The Crying Game, Richard.
Have you guys not seen it?
Oh, I've seen it.
Okay,
I've seen it.
I've seen all of it. Well, I don't need to explain what the spoiler is. The spoiler is that
Dong
is the spoiler alert. If you have not seen it or haven't seen it recently, Stephen Ray is an IRA volunteer tasked with taking care of a hostage who's a British soldier played by Forrest Whitaker. They wind up bonding. Forrest Whitaker says, if something happens to me, I want you to take care of my girlfriend, make sure she's taken care of. He winds up getting run over by a tank, basically, if I remember correctly. So Stephen Ray decides to meet with a girlfriend, winds up falling for her. Turns out girlfriend is transgender. Thank you. And it's interesting to me because this happens halfway through the movie.
I love how delicately you're traipsing through this plot and minefield of transgenderness and Wiener. You're just worried that Wiener's going to slap you in the face.
I'm worried about that most of the time. Jeff, so it's a phobia.
It happens halfway through?
Yeah, it's only maybe like a half or 2/3 of the way through the movie. I mean, there is a lot of plot that happens after that. Yeah. Which I remember watching this 20 years ago, maybe 15 years ago. And so I had forgotten that. I had forgotten this wasn't like the big reveal at the end. That this happens, and then there's this whole side plot with Miranda Richardson where she's trying to blackmail Stephen Ray to go do another assassination. And this sort of happens after all of that. Yeah. So it's fascinating to me that most of the time, these big spoiler alert things are the things that happen at the end.
Right.
And this happens in the middle of it. And then they wind up constructing the rest of the movie kind of partially on the effects of what happens. Yeah. After that. When it came out, critics were sworn to secrecy, and it's amazing to me that for the most part, everyone observed it. Like, people were able, and you mentioned me traipsing around it a little bit, and this is in 2017 when we are collectively, I would like to think, a lot more sensitive and aware and understanding of transgender rights, and just not the same way we would have been in 1992, to be sure. So critics had to find ways to write about this while not only not revealing the big spoiler, but also tiptoeing around the subject, which back then was incredibly taboo.
Right.
It is interesting side plot. So Siskel and Ebert did they used to do the If We Pick the Oscars episode every year.
What a bunch of a-holes.
That kind of were. And so they got...
I wonder how accurate they were.
I think because they picked whatever they liked. So it was usually not very accurate.
I want to go... That's a new research topic for me on Monday when I'm at work. Go back and see how accurate they were.
What was the record?
Make a spreadsheet.
Them and Miss Cleo probably the same record. You will come into Money Man.
And so Jay Davidson had been nominated for Best Supporting Actor, which probably should have been a hint. Yeah. And this was, 6 months after the movie had come out. And so they're getting up there, and Gene Siskel decided that was his choice, was Jay Davidson for Best Supporting Actor. And as he's starting to talk about it, there is right before he starts talking about it, text comes on the screen that basically says, spoiler alert, turn down your volume.
Yeah.
And then he goes on to talk about, well, at this point, you probably know, and the fact that he's nominated for Best Supporting Actor, that, Jay Davidson is playing a transgendered female in this movie. And that's part of the reason that he actually wound up selecting Jay Davidson as his choice, was basically there was no one else who could have played that role as well. And what a difficult role it was, having to, play a transgendered person and kind of go back and forth. And there's elements in the movie where they kind of have to make him male again. If you remember, they're trying to make him kind of quote unquote pass as a male. And Ebert gets pissed about this. Like, they get done with it, and Ebert is like, well, I can't believe you said that. I don't know how many people actually did turn down their volume. And this is a movie that not a lot of people have seen yet, maybe. And now you've just ruined the movie for them.
And it's 6 months after?
And it was probably like 6. I mean, this was, Oscars are March or April, so it would have been at least 4 or 5 months.
I hope,
and Ebert, like you could tell, is like legit, not like stagey pissed like they would get at each other, but like actually like upset about this.
I hope that when the Chiron flashed on the screen that said like spoiler alert or turn down your volume, I hope that afterwards there's like a Sergio Aragonés like guy sweeping it out of the way.
Yeah, Ebert was like legitimately upset about this. And it's a good minute of Ebert ranting about Siskel being an asshole, basically, for spoiling this, which gets me to the point of how long do we need? And this is something that came up with like The Red Wedding or several of these like Walking Dead. With movies, particularly, how much time is it before it's okay to start talking about the plot, the big plot twist? Is after opening weekend a month? It's a different time frame than TV shows too.
Yeah.
So it's just this complicated math.
It's funny because there is if you haven't watched, like, if we'll use Game of Thrones as the example, it comes out Sunday night. If you haven't watched it by Wednesday, man, what are you doing?
Yeah.
You've had 3 days to watch.
You're not a fan. Maybe you're doing a 2-day surgery and because you're a doctor or something like that.
But with movies, it's interesting. I think that there is just a way to talk about it without talking about it, that you can say things like, I'm not answering your question because there is no answer because we haven't figured it out.
Yeah. There's no algebra to this.
There's no
formula.
Yeah. It's just like, just be conscious.
Yeah.
A little bit, everybody.
But also understand that,
this is why Trump won. An entire country filled with people that just want to spoil the Red Wedding.
Right.
Rather than people that want to be conscious of other people's actions and their feelings and how, think about what someone else is going through for a while.
So in this scenario, the Starks were Hillary Clinton, right?
I do think with that election, some people thought they knew how it was going to end and didn't take action.
Spoiler alert.
Spoiler alert.
It's the red fucking wedding.
Quite literally.
My name's Jeff Hopkins, and I've got one job. That job is to be the judge. I listen to what Michael and Richard say. Most of it, some of the stuff I tune out. But being a judge isn't easy, but it's a job I take seriously. So I'm going to give these guys points, and it's going to get kind of crazy, guys. Spoiler alert. I
haven't read the novella, so I'm.
For his very personal essay of the feelings that he felt when Darth Vader said, "No, I am your father." Did he actually say that, or is that one of those things that's famous misunderstood
He said, "No, I am your father," but everyone misquotes it as Luke, "I'm your father."
Correct.
Yeah. Okay.
And is Luke's real name Lucas, by the way?
No, but I mean, basically.
It should be, right?
It's basically
it's a portmanteau of George. Luke S is kind of like Lucas.
Holy shit. I seriously never realized that, guys.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to rethink a lot of things. I don't feel comfortable right now.
Darth Vader's dark father.
Yeah.
Well, that I knew, idiots, of course.
Well, whoopie woo.
Chewbacca is chewing tobacco because he looks like something he's like.
Han Solo is a solo hand.
So I love Michael, how he went back to his childhood moment, and he was in the fetal position on the floor when he was recanting the moment of learning that the dubious Darth Vader, or the Darth Vader was saying to Luke that he's his father. And also that wasn't chicken we ate last night. So that was fun to kind of relive that emotion. So you get a point for that. And you both get a point for talking about sports and the Olympics. So that's a point for each of you. So right now, Michael's 2 and Richard's 1. Richard gets a point for the usual suspects. Richard gets a point. Richard gets a point for the usual suspects. In fact, you know what? Richard gets 2 points for the usual suspects.
Whoa, did not see that coming, guys.
And the reason it is because it encapsulates the nature of the argument. And that is when we engage in story, there are multiple aspects to it. And the end of a story is a component that you can remove. And in some cases, it's neither here nor there. In some cases, if you remove it and then put it at the beginning, which is what happens when somebody gives you a spoiler, it ruins the story for you. So in a way, you've arrived at this uncertain destination before you even get to go on the journey. Michael gets a point for actually researching this damn thing and determining what was the first use of this term spoiler alert in the Usenet boards for the death of Spock.
I Richard right there.
You totally did.
You dick.
This is for you stealing my my categories over the last 6 months.
Truly did not see that coming.
And I'm looking down here, and I get a point for supplying the beverages tonight. Oh, you didn't drink one.
No, I didn't.
Oh, so you get a point.
Okay. Sure.
I'm slap happy, folks. Listeners of the Mount Rushmore podcast, I love you. This has been the Mount Rushmore podcast. My name is Jeff.
I'm Richard.
I'm Michael.
Rosebud was the sleigh.